Welcome back to Up the Villa. This is our tactical debrief for Aston Villa 0, Manchester United 0. We've got no Earl today. He's ill, so it's just me. But Earl has done the graphics for this episode, avfc Scout. I'll put the link to his socials in the description to this video. If you are new around here, make sure you are subscribing. Get on this journey with us. Let's have a light target. International break, a 0-0. Help me out. Let's go 800. So everyone that's watched this episode enjoyed it. Hit that like button. And more importantly, comment your thoughts in the comment section down below. 0-0, but what a week. Bayern Munich, Manchester United, unbeaten. We've got to the international break. We've only lost one game this season in all competitions, which is just absolutely mental in itself. We are doing really well. But the 0-0, Man United, I know we always really want to beat Man United. It was disappointing that we couldn't do it, but there were still positives there for me, really big positives. I felt like second half we were pretty good. The control was good. We limited them to few chances. We kept a clean sheet, which I know a lot of you have been crying out for, so you've got to be happy with that. 2 clean sheets in a row against Bayern Munich and Manchester United. That is not bad in itself. So we're going to go in depth. We're going to go have a look at the passing networks, average positions, areas of influence. We're going to go to the tactical pad as well and have a look at most things to note from this game as well. So let's get straight into it then. Let's go to the tactical pad to start it off. And the one thing to note was Manchester United trying to do a job on Aston Villa. I think we spoke in the match preview about Manchester United's 4-2-4 formation. They still played the 4-2-4, but what they didn't do is they didn't leave their 2 central midfielders out to dry. And what they wanted to do against Aston Villa, which is what they did and which they did pretty well, was they suffocated the middle of the pitch. What they normally do is have Garnacho and Rashford out wide. They leave their 2 central midfielders. They'll have Bruno, who won't really do much defensive work. But what they did against Aston Villa is everybody tucked in and they nullified the middle of the pitch for Aston Villa. They tried to shut down Tielemans, Barkley. They tried to stop the balls going into Morgan Rogers. And they did it pretty well, to be fair. So it was really difficult for Villa to play through Manchester United. And you're going to see that with the first half stats and the second half stats. So here what you can see is you can see exactly what they were trying to do. We've got Bruno Fernandes here. Let's just get a little circle. We've got Bruno Fernandes. We've got Rashford narrow. We've got their midfield 2. And we've got Højlund. So what they're trying to do is stop the ball going into Rodgers, stopping it going to Tielemans, stopping it going to Barkley as well. And they were quite good at doing that against Aston Villa. Now, there's one area which we spoke about before the game that Villa would want to get into this position now. We really want to get into this scenario where Manchester United have got their midfield and we're able to get into this area here. We've seen so many times this season that the whole Manchester United midfield has been bypassed. And there was one time in the first half that we was able to do that. We've got Morgan Rogers driving forward. He's broke through the whole of the Manchester United midfield. The pitch has opened up for him. And we created a pretty good opportunity from this. The link up between Rodgers and Watkins was really good. And this is where Rodgers takes that shot and it hits the side netting. But this was a really good opportunity for Aston Villa. And I just wanted us to get into this area a little bit more. But we weren't really able to get into it too much. But this was a pleasing sign, especially in the first half. But like I say, we just weren't able to really capitalise on getting into that situation. In the second half, again, we've got into that situation again where you're thinking it's a good opportunity. It's broke for Aston Villa. We've got a nice through ball that is going to be played to Ollie Watkins through there. But he fires his shot. He takes a look. He's aiming for that sort of far top corner and he fires it wide. But these were the only really opportunities where we were able to bypass that Manchester United midfield. So if we take a little look now at some of the stats from the game, and what you'll be able to see, especially in the first half, is we kind of struggled with how Man United blocked out the middle of the pitch. And you can really see that we weren't playing any progressive forward passes really to Watkins or to Rodgers. The network isn't really that great. It's really side to side. And because Man United were holding in the middle of the pitch, they were forcing us to go into those areas. And they were pretty comfortable at defending those areas. But Emery in the second half, in his tactical team talk at half time, you can see that we tweaked something. We got Tielemans playing further forward. We were finding those forward passes into Rodgers, into Philogene as well. And we were able to have a little bit more of a threat and more of a focal point. So from the first half to the second half, you can see somewhat of a little bit of a difference. Now, if we take a look at the passing areas of influence as well, we've got the first half on the left, second half on the right, and you can really see it mirrors that sort of passing network from the second half, that we were getting into those zones that we kind of want to be in. We're getting into those transitional areas. We're on the half turn. We're facing the Manchester United goal, but it just didn't really click. We lacked that little bit of quality. It was a little bit of a tired-ish performance. I felt like we did get into some areas where things could open up, especially that Rodgers chance first half, the end of the game with Jaden. So I don't think it was as bad as what some say it was. I just think we've got to look at where we are and what we're doing, and the amount of injuries that we've got as well. It's okay bringing on Maatsen, it's okay bringing on Duran, but when we're crying out for a little bit more drive, a little bit more energy, we're crying out for a Ramsey second half, a McGinn second half, and we don't have those substitutions available. I think that was a factor in this game as well. We know that the bench, we've been able to rely on the bench. The bench has been able to come on and change games, but centrally, that was probably an area. No Onana as well. No Onana physicality. I think if you looked at our duels in the first half, we were way off the duels. We weren't winning second balls in the first half. And that's something that Onana probably would have helped with a little bit. So I think with the players that were out in this game and the players that we weren't able to bring on, we've been able to bring on a central midfielder in a lot of games that has changed the game as well. So I think that's a little bit of a factor. I think, especially that, we utilised the bench quite a lot, and we weren't really able to do that in this game. So if we have a look at the midfield, Barkley, Tielemans, I felt like Barkley grew into the game. I thought he was fine. I thought Tielemans was good as well. We've got the front four for Aston Villa, Bailey offering that width, doing that defensive work, Philogene working on left out wide and coming inside as well. So I felt like Philogene had a pretty good game as well. So I really do want to touch on Philogene, because I think for me, this has been the rising of Philogene. This game and the game against Bayern Munich, I think he was really good. And it has been the rising of him. It has been, hopefully, the start and the making of Philogene, because he's really stepped up. And, I don't watch footballers and just think, you've got no goals, you've got no assists. There's so much more to a performance than somebody just getting a goal and an assist. What's he doing off the ball? And I think if we talk about his performance against Bayern Munich, how disciplined he was, he was absolutely fantastic. And then against Manchester United, we've seen him with a little bit more confidence. I saw him sort of coming out of his shell a little bit. And I think I always look back to Ramsey, when Ramsey started to be in the team. And I think he always felt like he had to feel his worth. Does he deserve to be at Villa? And once he felt like he did, and he started to get that confidence that he belonged at this level, Ramsey started to flourish, and I see the same with Jaden. And that performance against Bayern Munich, he would have got so much confidence from that performance. And against Manchester United, he's backed it up as well. His defensive work was good. His driving with the ball was good. And I also think his ability to play on the left and right, that can go under the radar, because if you look at Leon Bailey, who's very much right-sided, he only plays on the right. Unai Emery loves players that are totally versatile. He loves players that can play multiple positions. And Jaden has that ability to be able to play on the left and the right as well. And I just think it was fantastic. And I see a bit of a Martinelli moulding. I see him being moulded into this player. And the more he plays, the more confidence he's going to get. Will he play every week? He might not know. He might go out the team. We might play a different player on game dependent. But the early signs now are that Jaden is playing really well. What I loved about him is I loved this. Kobbie Mainoo. He sold Kobbie Mainoo, and now he's confident to drive forward. He's got that belief and that desire that, do you know what? I'm gonna go now. I'm driving, and I'm going to get my shot off. And it was a pretty good shot as well, to be fair. So this is something that I want to see more from him. I want to see him being bold. I want to see him being brave. I want to see him being confident and taking players on. But this was absolutely fantastic from Jaden. And hopefully that confidence can grow, because he's had an unbelievable week at Aston Villa. Those 2 games, SofaScore gave him over 7 ratings for both games as well. So, I feel like he'll be a player that Emery can rely on, and Emery can fine tune for certain aspects of what he needs to do in certain games as well. His ability to play wide on the left, but also come inside and play more central as well. I think that is a really good aspect to his game as well. So if we have a little look at some of his numbers, so he got 4 ball recoveries in this game, and he also got 1 tackle. And then here we can see his touches. We can see his touches, especially on the left-hand side. He's hugging that touch line, but he's also comfortable coming inside as well. He can shift and play on that right-hand side as well, which is where we saw him get that big chance as well. So he's got 13 final third touches, which is good. And that's where we want him. We want him in that final third. We want him in there being able to do some damage as well. And I think if we go to that final moment in the game here, I don't think some would look at it and say he's made the wrong decision here. I think you can see that the goal has sort of opened up on this side, hasn't it? It's opened up for him here. And you're thinking, curl it round Onana. But I think Onana's looking around the defender, isn't he? I think that's where Onana is expecting that to go. But the fact that he tries to hit it there, I think would catch Onana out, and he just hits the defender. So, yeah, I mean, if that was on target for me and it didn't hit that defender, I think it goes in, because Onana, I don't think he's expecting it to go there. He's expecting it to go into that area through there or that top corner. So, yeah, it's a big moment, and it'd have been amazing if he'd have scored it. But I think fantastic from him, really. I'm really pleased for him, because I know there's a player there, but I want him to see him believing in himself. I think that's what's got to be unlocked at this level. Just him believing that he belongs here. And I think he'll start to really get that confidence as well. So really pleased for him. Early signs, but this was the week for him that he needs to look back on now and definitely build on. One player for me who is Aston Villa's unsung hero is Luca Dean. He's absolutely incredible, and he goes so under the radar. His performances are under the radar, and he's really good for Aston Villa. Look at this here. 8 ball recoveries against Man United, 1 clearance, 4 tackles, 2 interceptions, my man of the match. I thought he was sensational again. And we hear a lot of talk about, Maatsen needs to start getting in the team. But how can he? How can he dislodge Luca Dean? That the way Luca Dean is playing and defending and the maturity, I think he's doing absolutely fantastic. And this is what we want. We want a player with the shirt and another player that's trying to get that shirt off this player. And while he's playing this well, I don't see an opportunity where Maatsen can get in ahead of Luca Dean because he's doing so well. Final third touches, 23, 20 in the mid third, defensive third, 19, total touches, 62. I think Luca Dean, for me, he's doing so well defensively, clean sheets. And I think every defender needs credit. Goalkeeper, Pau, Carlos, Konsa, Cash, because we know how difficult clean sheets are to come by in the Premier League, and we don't keep that many. So I think the fact that once we keep one, no one talks about it, and everyone just starts like bypassing the fact that we've not kept clean sheets. Now we've kept one. I think we really need to big up the fact that we have kept a clean sheet. We've got Manchester United and Villa shots. Villa with 11, Manchester United with 10. And then here we can really see that impact of Luca Dean bombing on, getting into that final third zone. Cash was doing the same again. I thought Cash was pretty good apart from that time when he tried to sort of pass it through Rashford, and Rashford got that transitional chance. But I think that's probably why I am pleased with the performance, because second half we limited those transitional chances. And I think if you look at the transitional goals that we've been conceding this season, Man United are a pretty good team on transition. We've seen Rashford being able to curl them in. We've got Garnacho's able to do it as well. So they have got players on transition that can really hurt us. So the clean sheet, I think we need to speak about that as well, because it was pretty good. Barkley, I think, was okay. If you look at a lot of his passes that went astray, they were forward passes. I felt like he grew into it second half. I thought he was a lot better, especially with Tielemans. And then I thought Tielemans had a pretty good game as well. 1 ball recoveries, 1 clearance, 1 blocked pass, 3 tackles, 1 interception, 3 aerials. And I thought he was pretty good as well. So, yeah, I thought those two both did okay. If we have a look at another image from the game as well, that was the Philogene one that I showed you. We've got the corner that we worked pretty well to Yuri Tielemans. I think this was a bright spot for Villa. I think our set pieces were a little bit astray. They were creative, but they didn't quite come off, did they? And I think sometimes when some of them don't come off, they can look quite bad. But especially that one where we do that little run, and one puts it in there. We're trying to dislodge that Manchester United line. We're trying to get them to go and then stay and go. And yeah, it didn't quite come off that well, did it? But I think all in all, for me, this was the Bailey one and the Tielemans. But yeah, I think it was okay, and I don't really think you can really probably say too much more about the performance. Really, it's quite difficult to talk about 0-0. But I think with stuff like this, it is always best to see the positives from it, really, and just sort of have perspective of what we did on Wednesday. Yes, we were able to manage Champions League and Premier League. We didn't lose against Man United. That would have took a lot out of a lot of the players emotionally. But we was able to stay strong and back it up with a clean sheet. And, without certain and key players, big players for us, McGinn, Onana, Ramsey, I think we just got to take it as what it is. We're in and around where we want to be, and we are doing really well. So if the bodies can come back against Fulham, and then we can start to build and get some more momentum as well. So it's definitely not all doom and gloom for me, especially. I think it was pretty decent. The perspective of the game that we played on Wednesday. Yes, I think I'd have liked to have seen Rodgers a little bit more sharper. But, he's getting into those areas. He's getting into the areas that we want him, but just for a little bit of a lack of quality. and Philogene, I think, it's a massive one, because we've brought him back, and we want to see him perform, and we want to see him grow. And I think the early signs so far, 2 games, backs it up fine. I think Bailey's not quite there. He's not quite fit. He's not quite at where we want him to be and what we saw last season. But it's important that we stick with him, because what we normally see is when a lot of these Villa players start to get written off, they come back and back it up with performances. So I think Bailey needs just this little bit of a rest now to recover. And it looks like he's been playing with a bit of a niggle. So let's get him right, and then move on to Fulham. So cheers, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed it. Up the Villa.